Greetings. This is once again your brother Esquire of the All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we close out Human Trafficking Prevention Month. This afternoon, we have a tremendous panel who will go into the human trafficking trade, help us understand some of the signs, and also provide resources, tools, and just give you their experience on how we can prevent this egregious industry. You may have known that January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month. However, it's not advertised nor is it marketed the way that some of the other months, which are dedicated to various causes, are advertised. Well, today we're going to bring light to this industry, and through this outreach, hopefully we can help stop this industry altogether. And our panelists for this afternoon is one that I feel will be able to provide many of us insight into this industry and how we can utilize and leverage our capacity as neighbors, as family members to help stop this industry. We have with us our councilwoman from the 45th Councilmanic District, Ms. Farah Lewis. We also have with us from the Freedom Youth Organization, Mrs. Monique Riley Ferguson. And we also have with us Mrs. Akila Shafiq from Freedom Youth as well. And we also have a survivor. And she's not going to come on camera, but she will provide us some testimony. She will provide us her experience as a survivor, Miss Natasha. And later on in the program, we're going to be joined by the Brooklyn Borough President and mayoral candidate, Mr. Eric Adams. And Mr. Adams, we would hope, will share with us some of the vision that he has for New York City and how he intends on combating human trafficking here in New York City if he were to become mayor. Well, welcome, Councilwoman. Welcome, Ms. Akila, as well as Natasha. Thank you for, again, joining now. This is part 3 of All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast, exploring human trafficking and how it's in our backyard and hopefully how we can get it out of our backyard and ensure that there aren't any more victims in our communities suffering from this industry. Councilwoman, I'm going to start with you first. And I know this has been a passion of yours. Can you give us an update on some of the work that you're doing legislatively here in New York City regarding this industry?
Well, first, Brother Esquire, I want to thank you for ending Human Trafficking Prevention Month with the conversation. If it were not for you, we wouldn't be able to know. Most people don't even know it's Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So the fact that you're highlighting this particular issue, I want to say thank you. And for allowing the advocates that are on today an opportunity to share some of their work and what they're doing. I would like to thank you for that as well. The last time I was on, I shared 2 bills that I sponsored in the city council to try to address the issue. The first one is Intro 1928 that would require the NYPD to compile, send, and post a yearly missing persons report that would be disaggregated by race, age, gender, precinct, and percentage of cases solved and number of cases involved in human trafficking. So most of us know about the Amber Alert system and the Silver Alert system, but there's no missing person system available for someone that's over 18 years old. We know that there are some clear indicators out there for families that are dealing with this issue. And it came upon me when I first ran for office. My first couple of months in, I started to get text messages, basically through social media as well, where parents will send me pictures of their daughters were missing, young girls and young women who were abducted either at a shopping center or didn't make it home or to school one day, and they know that their daughters were abducted. And we wanted to make sure that we highlighted this issue and provided a platform for families that feel like, defeated by the situation. The second bill, I forgot to mention it, is Intro 1929. It creates a public alert system to be used in a missing persons case where people are believed to be in imminent danger. So I'm still waiting to see if there's an opportunity for these bills to get heard in the Public Safety Committee, but I definitely open to joining some of the advocates here and around our city to provide as much services and resources for survivors of human trafficking and helping with identifying the trends and hotspots where young girls are picked up.
Oh, thank you so much, Councilwoman. And in my eagerness to get this conversation started, I wanted to first thank Almighty God, to whom we refer to by so many incredible names, for giving us an opportunity to share this platform with our listening as well as our viewing guests. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Almighty God, who has been a force in my life and has been a presence in my life when it comes to doing a lot of the work that I do. So this platform wouldn't be here if it were not for his intervention and his permission. So I just wanted to take a quick PSA, so to speak. But before we get started into the conversation, I will ask everyone to please start a watch party. If you have teenage daughters or teenage sons, get them now before the screen. Have them take a break away from the PS5 for a quick second, because the information that's going to be provided here is absolutely life-saving. And we want to make sure our young people are aware of the signs, and as well as parents, and maybe have a discussion after this regarding human trafficking, especially as we near Super Bowl weekend. And Super Bowl weekend is next weekend. And according to the McCain Institute of Arizona State University, researchers say that Super Bowl weekend is the weekend where the most human trafficking occurs. In fact, they estimate that close to 10,000 victims are going to participate in the sex industry, will participate in the sex industry. And Miss Akila Shafiq, can you give us a bit of a background of how you got started in advocating in this space?
I've been working with Freedom Youth about a couple of months ago, and I was introduced as an intern for criminal justice. It was just an intern, and later after, I decided to stay on with them because the issues that I see that arise that I didn't even know was active. I didn't know some of the hot spots was like locations that I grew up in and locations where I still have family at. So with that being said, I just decided to stay on and become an advocate with them.
Okay, and where is Freedom Youth located?
Freedom Youth is in New York City, in the Bronx.
What part of New York? In the Bronx. Okay.
In the Bronx. Yeah.
And do you service the whole Bronx, or are you citywide, or is there a particular catchment area that you have?
No, we service everywhere. We even had clients come down from South Carolina, Virginia, wherever there is a client that's in need of a help or in need of a rescue. We are out there. We are going out there to get them, or making sure they get to us.
Okay, and we also have with us Miss Natasha. Miss Natasha, first, I just want to say thank you for joining us this afternoon. Miss Natasha is a survivor of the sex industry, and she's on her way to recovery at this time with the help of Freedom Youth. And Miss Natasha, thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your courage to join us this afternoon. I know it's not an easy thing to do, but I understand that you want to provide your testimony in order to save other lives and save and have young people stay away from this particular industry. Ms. Natasha, can you talk to us a bit about how you got to Freedom Youth?
Of course. So, I grew up in foster care after what happened to me, and so I went to go live with my uncle, and he ended up kicking me out because he couldn't handle the aftermath, which was like mental health issues and behavioral issues after this my incident with sex trafficking. And so I became homeless, and I started to move between places, and um, you know. Uh, I became homeless, and so a friend contacted Freedom Youth because she wanted to help me, and I got connected with them, and it's kind of definitely changed my life.
And when you actually got to Freedom Youth, how, how did you go about even explaining to them, what your status was or what your story was about? How difficult was that?
Um, it definitely it wasn't too difficult because I grew up a lot during my life having to repeat my story to different therapists, psychiatrists, group home staff and things like that. So it's kind of like repeating, like it's in my brain, like it's like a script that I have to say because I've said it so much.
And what age were you when you first encountered this industry?
I was 16.
16. And was this at school, or did it first happen in the home or the workplace, or
I was taken off of the street from a man took me off the street because I was homeless at the time. I ran away from my group home, and so he said, you can have if you'll. It was winter, so he said you can sleep in my apartment if you have sex with me. And the next day, I was beaten, and he threatened me with a gun and things like that, and so that day I became bound to that apartment, more mentally than physically, and I found out that sometimes mental chains are a lot stronger than physical ones.
wow. And again, Nastasia, I know this is a very difficult topic to bring up, and I want to again thank you for your bravery, thank you for your courage, and sharing your story with us. And I know, because you're sharing your story with us, that we're going to be able to help other young people who are 15, 16, who may be in school, who might have propositions such as the ones that you have, and be able to find their best way out of a situation that you were presented with. um Miss Akila, how how do you go about when you hear these stories and they come into Freedom Youth? What is your direct approach?
My direct approach, first and foremost, I make sure that they're comfortable. I make sure that they're comfortable. I make sure that any safety concerns are looked at, are addressed. I make sure, their basic needs are met. Um, and basically, I just pave a path for them to get comfortable and get to know me a little bit more, so they are more comfortable to go ahead and tell their story. Some clients come in, they're willing to tell their story. Sometimes we have someone who has referred the client, so we do know a little background. So basically, what I do is just give them the platform to open up how they want, the way they want, so they can when they feel comfortable.
I see. And I'm going to bring on the broadcast at this time the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams, who's also a candidate for New York City Mayor. And I've known Mr. Adams for quite some time over the decades. I've watched the work that he's done in the public space, in the private space, and also the courage that he showed when he was part of law enforcement here in New York City to make sure that we had proper policing and to hold his colleagues and peers accountable. Mr. Eric Adams, thank you for joining the All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast. And you know me as Brother Jacques Leandre, Brother Jacques Mohammed. On this show, I'm Brother Esquire. That's my pseudonym. But thank you for
brother. And you have been doing so much, and you clearly understand that all men and women, for that case, are not created equal. And it's imperative that we do everything that's possible to bring that level of equality to how we run our cities and respond to crises. I often talk about our definition of crises in America is just really inaccurate. When it comes down to Black and brown communities, everything is just an incident. And when it happens in other communities, it turns into a crisis. Everything from how we deal with drugs, how we deal with maternal morbidity, how we deal with education, and this important topic of how we deal with sex trafficking. We're at a crisis level, and I take my hat off to these sisters for raising this and what the councilwoman has been doing in this space as well. We need to treat it like the crisis that it is.
And Mr. Adams, Borough Pres, mayoral candidate, as the next mayor, what steps would you take to address this issue? Because right before you came on, our councilwoman made a point. She said, you know what? January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, but no one is actually bringing it to the forefront. You don't see any banners on the trains, or you don't see anyone actually bringing this awareness. There's no, walks. There's no marches. There's nothing advertising Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And this is a serious issue in New York City, and now we know nationally and actually globally. What would you do as mayor to bring some attention to this?
And folks have been doing something. And as I stated, we need to really take our hat off to the councilwoman. She has coordinated with my office, and we have had a series of events, not only during the awareness month, but throughout the entire year. We know how serious this is, but just to really zero in on what you are saying, which is extremely important. I believe we don't see the response nationally, statewide, and throughout the entire city is look at the victims. For the most part, they're Black and brown girls, and even some young men are swept up into this. And we respond differently in this city, state, and country when the victims of particular actions are folks of color. And so we lift our voice and our advocacy because we acknowledge that and understand that. But as a chief executive of the city, we should go into the schools, do real information, and allow our young people to be part of getting that information out there. I'm a big believer in credible messengers. If you want to have people understand things, then you need to communicate with those who are delivering the message. And we should focus on empowering our young people, using our schools as a way of giving information so that young people could be aware of it. And then use some of our traditional organizations, everything from our crisis management teams, who are doing an amazing job, to some of the other local grassroots organizations to do that advertisement campaign that you're talking about, our radio stations that young people listen to often, and many of our individuals who are part of the entertainment industry. So it's about a 360 approach to addressing this issue around human trafficking.
Understood. And I know you have an extensive background in law enforcement. And as I mentioned before, you were one of those officers when you were in uniform that ensured you were one of those officers that I would rather my young people come in contact with and have an interaction with if they were to have a situation with the officers, right? But as a captain and one who was brass, so to speak, in NYPD, can you give us, in layman's terms, what approach you would take as far as law enforcement is concerned with this particular industry?
Yes, a combination of things. Number one, something that we attempted to do in Brooklyn, I would immediately train those who are part of the hotel industry to look and identify a person who could potentially be trafficking and have a hotline connection with our hotels, a lot of our nightlife establishments. Once you identify those signs and train people of the signs to look for, you could have an immediate response. And then we will have a team of detectives who will specifically create the partnerships through what's called Interpol. When a young person is taken to another venue or jurisdiction, to one, immediately have the resources to get them back here. A number of the cases I have been familiar with where family members were unable to get their children out of harm's way to get them back to the city because of the costliness of it. We will immediately prosecute in those venues that's outside our city by assisting in the information that is needed. And we will really put the energy behind thoroughly investigating these incidents. I cannot tell you the number of times parents, family members have reported these incidents and have not received the same level of investigation to identify the child at an early time, so that it's easier to track and find the child and assist them to get out of harm's way from the person who's carrying out the act. And then we need to really fully prosecute those individuals who are behind the sex trafficking agenda.
Wow, wow. That is really an innovative way in approaching this, Mr. Adams, Kingsborough president. I'm tempted to say mayor, real, but teaming up, because we know in the community the hot sheet hotels. We know when we see young girls with their John, so to speak, going into these hotel rooms with their overnight bags, what's happening. And not enough of us are actually saying enough, or sometimes, as you mentioned, there may not necessarily be a system in place where when we see this, it could be reported and it actually can be handled in a proper way. So that type of ingenuity, I believe we need at various levels in city government. And I'm glad you actually brought that point up. And if anyone else is listening, it came first from Mr. Adams. But we also have with us, and she has some connectivity issues, and I want to bring up on very quickly Miss Monique Riley Ferguson, and hopefully the tech team is trying to bring her on and resolve some of the issues. Miss Ferguson.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you
Hi.
now. Hi,
All
how
right.
are you?
I'm doing good. I'm sorry I'm using my husband's phone at this time.
Not a problem, and I'm glad you are able to join us. And as many of you may know, this is our third part on sex trafficking. Miss Monique Riley Ferguson was with us on part 2, and she shared her courageous story on how she was victimized, how she was a survivor, and now I call her a savior, how she's actually saving other young people with her organization, Freedom Youth. And Ms. Monique, please do not hesitate to repeat the testimony you gave last time, because it was so compelling. We need to hear it again. But how did you actually get started in this particular industry, Ms. Riley?
Yes. So, I would say, well, I pretty much lost my job. One of my job as a teacher, here in the city as a preschool teacher, and I decided that I was gonna get put on unemployment anyways. They had a program called SEAP, which is called SEAPS, and that program had allowed me to build an organization. But the reason why I actually am passionate about it and got into this world of human trafficking or anti-human trafficking is because it's my story, it's my passion, it's something that has happened to me. It happened to me at a very young age, at 12 years old, where a 13-year-old got me involved in human trafficking. and her mother pretty much, became our pimp and was, trafficking us from here to there. Um, I would say up until about 14, 15, I ended up in Miami, and I started, getting involved in other things like stripping and things of that nature. But, the reason why I'm doing it is because I'm tired. I'm tired of people saying that it's going to be a difference. I'm tired of people sitting down and being quiet about it. I'm tired of people not standing up and doing something about it. Um, it's my story, and as you hear today, it's Nastasia's story. She's 18. I'm 37. The other day we had a 53 on, so that was like three generations right there. 53-year-old
Wow.
woman who've been involved in sex trafficking, me 37 sex trafficking, and Nastasia 18 in sex trafficked. It's not fair, and no one is teaching our children about it, and that is why it's continuing to happen. And as you mentioned earlier, putting funding into and MTA, with them putting up the different signs and things of that nature might teach people indirectly on what human trafficking is.
Mm.
We have to take the extra initiatives to do something about it. And you're right. There's not a lot of people out here talking about human trafficking. No one is protesting about it. You hear about gun violence, and you see a whole bunch of people that come out, but this can be your son, your daughter, anyone, and they can be sex trafficked or human trafficked, whatever which way you want to put it. This is happening to us and our children. They are lucrative to pimps, and they're going to continue to be that way if we don't put our foot down.
Thank you so much, Miss Riley, again for your courage and your commitment to helping our young people. And I know our councilwoman stated she has a hard stop at 4:30 because she has another commitment. So I want to give you an opportunity, please, Councilwoman Lewis, to give us some parting words.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this conversation with everyone that's on the panel. As the borough president mentioned, we've been working on this since I got into office. He was already working on this for a long time. We partnered on the Wear Blue events and panel discussions at Borough Hall. Today actually makes a year since his Wear Blue event and human trafficking and prevention awareness event at Borough Hall. I'll repost it on Facebook so everybody could see some of the highlights from last year. But as Monique Riley mentioned and the borough president mentioned, the best thing for us to do is basically to push the conversation forward, show your outrage. We have 75,000 Black and brown young girls that are missing, and no one is concerned. It doesn't bother anyone that someone's daughter, wife, little sister is missing, and we have no reporting data. We have no criteria on how to address the matter. So it's high time we make this a national priority, a local priority, and we give the funding that the organizations need to move forward. So thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. I look forward to continuing this effort with the borough president on all levels and all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. And again, thank you for being a friend of the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, we're just going to take a quick break to tell you to share, like, and subscribe to Brother Esquire on Instagram as well as YouTube. And please visit NNV News, National Network View. They have we have a Instagram page, YouTube page, Facebook page, a Periscope, Twitter. Just go to NNV at NNV and you can find us. And again, I want to just thank all the guests for being on the show. And Miss Akila, going back, what caseloads do you have presently now that you're handling? And if you could give us a background on some of the caseload, some of your caseload. Oh, you're on mute. There you go.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, so I have some caseloads that is in the middle of transition and finding housing. I have caseloads where the clients we're just working with them with the counseling and the therapy. I have entry level people that we're just still getting to know. Most of my clients is within the age of 18 so I would say about 26ish. So basically, we have someone that's from another state. We have someone that's inside the state. We have another client that we're trying to get mental help with. So we have a few caseloads.
Okay. And Miss Riley,
I'm here.
right now you're sitting before the mayoral candidate on June 22nd. We know there's a primary. You run Freedom Youth Organization. What would you say to the next mayor of New York City as far as helping you and helping those who are like you, advocates in this space, to help you do your work?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, I would say that there needs to be a task force that needs to take place here. And I know that they might have a task force, but I don't know what they're doing. So the task force needs to be put in place. Um, and it needs to be led by people who have gone through it. That is the main thing. Survivors need to take space and take up space because they are the experts. They have gone through it, and therefore they're able to give off a little bit more information than what the usual person who's just learned about what human trafficking is. So making sure that you have a task force of survivors is important. And secondly, I pray that they will allow mandated human trafficking classes to take place, even throughout health education classes, something, because we have taken on many students, SYEP students after SYEP student. And when they first come to us, they know nothing about human trafficking. All they know is that there was an abduction that takes place. This is what they think human trafficking is. They don't even know that a person their age or somebody that look like them can get them involved in human trafficking. So I'm hoping that two things will take place: that there be a task force made up of survivors, and then the other thing is that there's mandated human trafficking classes throughout the New York State. Really, hopefully.
Okay. And Board President, what is your remarks regarding that?
I believe it's powerful that when you speak to those who have personally endured the problems of any particular area, and I think the sister is right. If you're going to formulate a plan of addressing something like human trafficking, you can't do it from an academic space. You must do it from a space of people who have gone through it, get their input on early detection, early support, how to identify those who are actually carrying out the act and they're playing the role of the pimp, and how to actually turn back some of the problems we're facing. And so I think she's dead on. That task force should be made up of individuals who have lived through the journey, and they want to make sure others are not going through the same form of negative encounters that they are experiencing. And really, it's about empowering young people with information in their schools, what to look out for, how to avoid it, how to do an early notification, and how to build a support system for those who had to actually live through this and they're transitioning back into the normal life that they are experiencing. Because there's a lot of trauma that's associated with this experience, and if we're not there to help people through it, they're going to just reimagine and re-experience some of the PTSD that's associated with it. So I believe she's dead on. That task force should be made up of survivors and those who are ready to go and help others survive these terrible encounters. Not only those who have personally went through it, but family members. When a child is sex trafficked, the way you're witnessing, the family's traumatized. I cannot tell you how many parents have reached out, and just the experience that they went through, they need that support as well.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Borough President. And Natasha, I just want to ask you, do you have any peers within your circle who are also engaged in this industry? And how do you think you could best help them?
So I don't, I grew up with a lot of girls who were like me because I grew up in a group specifically for sex trafficking and exploited victims of exploited children, and so I'm still connected with them today. Considering that they haven't had the right support, they are now back into that lifestyle. And so I don't know exactly how to help them because it is such it that situation as a whole takes such it takes a toll on on your mental health. And so when they're doing that they think that what they're doing is they don't realize what they're doing is detrimental to themselves because all that's all they know. That's the issue. And the big issue is rehabilitation of these victims because we are so much more likely to get back into that lifestyle because we don't have the proper resources or anyone supporting us properly.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier, Natasha, that you're 16, or you were 16 at the time, which means you were essentially a school age child. You were a school
Yes.
age child when this occurred. And I have on the line President Sean D. Francois the first, who is the president of Local 372. And it's a labor union here in New York City. And his members are comprised of employees who work in the school kitchens, who are the school crossing guards, who are the SAPIS workers, who are the cafeteria workers, who are the paraprofessionals, and they're the support service in New York City public school system. How do you think the schools could be helpful and help in providing assistance to our school age children who encounter this?
Um, I think a good start would be introducing the the situation and the idea and just teaching about sex trafficking and sex ed classes and things like that because when I talk to my peers or people my age they think sex trafficking is one thing but it's mostly another. And so they have a lot of misconceptions which prevent them from actually preventing themselves from getting into it. So I think there needs to be education first of all, and then definitely better trained counselors and things like that because um, I think when you go to I think a lot of kids are scared to go to counselors or people in their school because they think that they will get in trouble. And I think there needs to be a more comfortable space or a more comfortable plan, a more comfortable space that they can come into to speak about what is happening to them or what's happening to their peers or something or things like that.
Oh, okay. And Monique, I see you shaking your head in agreement. Do you want to add to this conversation?
I absolutely do. I was just listening to her and I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. We need all of that. You know how they have the Beacon after school program inside the schools?
Yes.
I presented to a principal some time ago, and I said, just like you guys have the Beacon program to add, different activities for the kids, a place for them to go, after school sports, etc. They need to have the same thing for anti-human trafficking organizations should be allowed to go into the NYPD, not NYPD, I'm sorry, the New York City school systems and add be kind of like an additive to them because our teachers are overwhelmed, our guidance counselors, they're overwhelmed. Some of them don't know what human trafficking look like. And if we had organizations sitting in there like they have the Beacons program sitting in there, that might be an additive level for people to come in, or we can spot things as an organization. We can actually spot things that a child might be going through. Okay, this person, we just noticed her coming in with extra clothing, new hair. She hasn't been home, X, Y, and Z. These are all red flags. So it always goes back to the screening process, right? I always say we have to build a screener. We build screeners for people who have mental health, right? They go into the medical hospital or the clinic for a checkup. The moment you see your doctor, they ask you, well, how are you feeling today, right? They're screening if you're feeling good today, from a level 1 to 10. And if you give them a certain number that they don't like or they don't feel like they're comfortable with, they will, try to, see if you can see a psychiatrist or a social worker, right? So are we screening for these things in schools? Why don't we have organizations that can come into the school and be an additional help to those who, are teaching our kids?
Interesting.
It's initiatives. It's initiatives. That's it.
Got it. And Mr. Eric Adams, after hearing all of this from survivors as well as those who are now went from victims to survivors to saviors like Miss Monique Riley, how do you see New York City providing some sort of wraparound service when it comes to the victims?
And that is so important because oftentimes when we talk about addressing crises, addressing things that are impacting our city and the lives of people, we do it in silos. We see it as a one space instead of a cross section, a braided, I like to say, approach to addressing the problem. This is not just a law enforcement problem. This is a problem where people are going to need counseling after. You may have some victims that may need housing. You may have some victims that may need to be integrated back into our educational system. You may have some victims who were in the foster care program and age out at 21 instead of giving the support that they
Mhm.
need. And so when you do the assessment properly and you sit down with a person who has gone through this and you find out their needs, and then you utilize all of our city agencies to address those needs and just not a one approach to addressing just one particular need. We need a wraparound service approach to addressing all of those needs that's associated with this victim has gone through.
Thank you, sir. And Monique, with the work that you're doing with Freedom Youth, we have our listening audience as well as our viewing audience, and they're sending chat messages. How can we help? Who can we contact? Can you share with us, I guess, your information for your organization?
Yes. So we're focusing right now on trying to get a safe house. Just like Nastasia said today, the biggest issue that we are encountering is young people who we do get, from outreach or that have heard of our organization have come to us. The only thing that we don't have right now is we do not have a safe house. Now we can send them a whole bunch of places, the path, the women's shelter, etc. But none of those places are going to right away address the trauma that they have gone through. So we're trying to build our own safe house. So we're asking for help. Anyone who have donations towards that, that will be greatly appreciated. Even if we start with a two-family household, it's going to help. Put some people in these places, and give them a place to stay and a fresh start. So you're looking to do that. If anyone is willing to help us by volunteering their time with our organization, that would be greatly needed, and helpful towards our organization. Um, we're looking, also to be able to provide a youth program. We need a place. We've been renting out a place for so long, at a cubicle spot. And now we're looking to expand because our youth do need a place once COVID-19 is all and done. We want to be able to give them a space so they don't always have to do everything outside. I recall telling my story recently, when I first got a group of kids, it was like maybe 25 kids. We had no place to go. I had just started my organization. And I was like, you know what, God, you're going to do whatever you got to do because I need you to do this for me. And I remember taking out all of my furniture on my first floor, all of my furniture in my bedroom. I cleaned it all out in the first floor of my apartment, my house. We were able to utilize this as space for the kids to come in to advocate, to educate. And no one should have to go through that. There's plenty of buildings that no one is using here in the city, and they can offer something like that to myself. It's not easy as a young baby in coming up into this world, but also someone who is really focused on driving change. I really want to make a difference in the lives of our young people who are victims and survivors. I also want to make a difference in the lives of our youth so that they don't ever have to go through what I went through. So we need space. We're looking for us, to start building our safe house. And then we're looking for like a rec center for our children. This is all that we're asking for at this moment. And volunteers.
Okay, thank you for that. And what is the best way to reach your organization, Miss Riley?
Yes, I'm sorry. It is, the best way to reach us is at 929-367-4754. That is 929-367-4754. Our email is info@freedomyouthnyc.com, or you can email me directly at Monique Riley, Riley, at freedomyouthnyc.com. Thank you so
And,
much.
and you know I'm going to ask you to repeat, right? Because you just said it a little
Oh,
bit too fast, and I can't type
oh,
as fast as
sorry.
you. Let's go. What is the
All right, I'll
telephone
try.
number? The
Our
telephone number?
telephone number is 929
Mm-hmm.
367 4754.
Okay, I put it in our chat. If you want to help Freedom Youth, just call 929-367-4754. We're winding down this program. We have 12 minutes left, but I know our Kingsborough president, our Brooklyn Borough president, we want to thank you for your time, because we know this is some valuable time that you're spending with us, because we're just a few months away from the June 22nd primary elections for the mayoral seat. And I know you have tons of other calls to go on, but I want to give you a moment to give us what are your parting remarks, Borough President.
It's such an important issue, and I really want to commend the advocates and who are putting this on the forefront. And I agree. Right now, we're seeing a decrease in retail space. This is something the city should partner with the advocates and find office space, and we would get a better return on our investment when we have people doing this work that are not doing it for profit but for people. And these are the types of partnerships we need to develop, how to better utilize our school buildings to be resource centers after school hours, to utilize classrooms, gymnasium, give and create safe spaces for our young people so they know that they matter in every part of developing their full personhood. So I really, I'm pleased, and I want to commend the advocates, and I'm extremely happy of the partnership we have developed with the city councilwoman. And let's continue to fight this important issue together. This is how we're going to build healthy communities in our city.
Thank you. And if they need to reach you, Borough President, what is the best way that they can reach you? Because I earlier, our councilwoman mentioned a Wear Blue event that you started in Brooklyn to bring to the forefront human trafficking prevention type of work. What is the best place that they can reach you?
On all social media handles. If they would just, the easiest way to do it is just to go right to Google Eric Adams. Our website comes up. All of our emails will come up. Just Google Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, and everything you need to reach us is right there. That's probably the easiest, so people can remember that.
Okay, great. Again, we can't thank you enough, Borough President, for spending some time with us. And I know Monique has done some work with your office around that. We've had some private conversation offline, and she said you were very helpful in assisting her thus far. Although she's in the borough of the Bronx, you are helpful with assisting us. So again, we want to thank you, and thank you for being a friend of the show and imparting your knowledge with us. I
Thank
appreciate it,
you.
sir.
Thanks all. Thanks for what you're doing. Take
Now we're left with the advocates. We have about 8 minutes left, and I just want to get from you some information that you could give to parents who may be suspecting that their child might be engaging in this particular trade. What message would you give? First, I'll ask Miss Akila, and then I'll ask Miss Riley.
Well, so basically you have to have that conversation with your kids. You know, us as parents, we start to see when our kids act a little different. We have to monitor their friends. We have to get in their business. I have two children of my own, and I'm all the way in a business. So we can start with getting in a business, monitor their friends, their whereabouts, and having a conversation with them. The schools, a lot of them are not having it. We have one school that we're working with, but a lot of them are not having it. So basically, us as parents, we have to start at home. I have a 10-year-old daughter and I have a 16-year-old son. And even though it's hard for me to talk to my daughter about it, I have to. They had the DARE program inside the schools. I remember the DARE program from when I was a little kid, and
Mm.
it's still inside the school. So I'm hoping that we can have a program inside inside the children's schools that years later will be something that it will go through all the generations. Like we mentioned before, we had an 18-year-old, a 30 something year old, and a 53-year-old, all survivors. So that shows you a
Mm.
lot. So if we can just get it in the schools and just have that conversation with your children, let them know, it is a scary topic, but it's a necessary topic. We as parents, aunts, uncles, caregivers, cousins, friends, and family, we have to let them know, and we definitely have to get in their business.
Thank you. How about you, Miss Riley?
Yeah, so some deadweight signs that you can kind of look for is a child who is coming in with like multiple, like, phones. That is a good giveaway. Phones are directly attached to pimps who have gotten your child involved, because some kids do come home directly. Like, in my case, I went home every day. My mom didn't know what was going on until, everything had came out. And, so phones, tattoos, that's, any branding on their body, um, money, having a good amount of money or a steady amount of money that keeps coming in. If your child picks up the phone and they're on the phone all day long, all day long. Now we know we live in remote times right now, so I'm not talking about remote like. But if they're on the phone and the moment they get on the phone, they gotta leave and they go somewhere you don't know where they at. That's a sign. Running away repetitively is a dead sign. This is something that I did repetitively. And every time that I was gone, I was being trafficked from state to state. I was
Mm.
out of the state, in the state, in somebody's backyard, in somebody's abandoned home. And
Mm.
so, quite honestly, when we talk about children who have been running away and they're repetitively running away, you want to find out who they're running away to and why they keep going there. Just find out. Another sign would be, if your child went from having, the best attitude and you didn't have any problems with that child, and all of a sudden they, as parents say, they're smelling themselves. That's a
Mhm.
dead giveaway. They start to change. Their attitude starts to change. And usually you see this happen when young people start to have sex and things like that. So it's the same thing. Their attitude starts to stink. They, think they are older than you. They can talk back to you. These are some signs to look for. If their grades are declining and they are not in school like they're supposed to be, and they're not where you left them at, then that's a dead sign. Just be mindful. Always go through your children's phone. Get in their business, like Miss Shafiq said. You are the parent. You're more than likely paying the phone bills and everything else. Take back what is yours. That's your child. Take the
Mm.
phone away if you have to. Take the laptop if you have to. These are all different ways that kids are getting involved. And go through the phone. Go through the phone. Open it up. Go through the phone, because what these pimps are doing now, if the kid can't leave at their house, they're asking them to send pictures, nude pictures. They're gonna make money either way. If they can't get it off of you going to see a John, then they're gonna have your child take solicited, pictures of themselves and solicit themselves online. So this is something for you to be watchful for.
Wow. Wow. Whew. What you just gave us would make any parent now super hyper paranoid, to the point where I think it's a healthy paranoia, though. It's a paranoia that many parents need to have, because we're living in an age where, as you just mentioned, it doesn't even have to be physical now. It's being done virtually. It's being done online, where your child is being exploited by sending nude pictures and that's probably the gateway to the physical aspect of this industry. Um, wow. Go
If
ahead.
I can just add really quickly, also, for those who are in a jail, in a prison, we also have to really, really, really think twice about how it's happening. And I think I had spoke to you a little bit about it last time I was there, but they have found ways, pimps and traffickers, predators have found ways to, penetrate the jail system by putting money on people's books, put the money on the books. After they leave there, they're picking the person up. I have been putting money on your books for the last 6 months. Now that you're out, you go with me. So this is something that they have been doing for a long time. So how much education is going through our prison system to the
So
people who are going in jail?
just to back up a bit, you mean
Hmm.
the victim has someone in the prison system putting money. Explain that to explain
Okay.
that
Yeah.
whole
So
process.
okay. Yes.
Or
So
is the
I'm
pimp,
gonna.
or is it the pimp putting money on the books for the?
Yes.
Explain it.
Yes, yes. So the pimps, the traffickers, or the predators will go on a website and see who's been in jail, when they're getting released, etc. There's a website you can go to. Like anybody can put money on anybody's books if they want to, right? It's that
Hmm.
same system that they look for. They go through, they scroll. Okay, this person is getting out this one, this time, that time. They begin to like write the person, then put money on the books. After the money is put on the books, after they have been doing this for some time, that person now owes the pimp, trafficker, or predator. When they get out to be released from jail or prison, they're going with that pimp and that trafficker because they owe them. So now they're in debt bondage.
Got it. Got it.
Hmm.
And this is being done mainly to women prisoners, correct?
This is we don't know. We don't. I've tried to get in and ask for a survey because I mean we do researches, and this is something that needs to heavily be researched because it's something that is happening.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much for bringing insight to this industry that we most common people or lay people don't have a clue on, what's really happening, and but we know what's happening though, because as was mentioned, 75,000 young Black girls are missing, and no one is saying anything apparently, relative to this huge number. 75,000. We don't see it on social media. We don't see it in the public news. Although the Final Call newspaper has done dozens of articles on human and sex trafficking, which is probably the only media that has dedicated resources and has highlighted even on the front page of this industry. We have 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask Akila if you could give us some closing remarks, and then Natasha, if you could give us some closing remarks, and of course, Miss Ferguson Riley, or Riley Ferguson, could give us some closing remarks.
So I just want to say to everyone that's out there, listen, continue to spread awareness. Parents, you got to stay in your kids' business. Peer-to-peer recruitment is real. That's when another kid bring in another kid. So this is very, very real. So we have to spread awareness, talk to our kids, because I see a lot of kids, and let them know that this happens in our communities, in all the boroughs. It's not something that just happened in another country. It happens all over.
Thank you so much, and again, Akila, thank you for the work that you've been doing around this industry. Miss Riley.
Yes. So I would just say to everybody that, like, just like Mr. Shafiq said, this is something that is real. It's not something that's happening in just Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, etc. It's happening right here next door to you in your neighbor's house, etc. We have to stand up. We have to fight. Let's educate. Let's put policies together. Let's really drive it home to educate because our young Black and brown girls are missing and boys, they're missing. And no one, absolutely no one is talking about this. We have to stand up and we got to do something. And I always tell my survivors, you know, who's going to help you? It's sometimes we think it's going to be the cops, it's going to be NYPD. 9 out of 10 times, it's always another survivor willing to go back in the trenches to be able to save
Mm,
another person. It's the survivors that's doing it. And everyone else is getting the light and the limelight behind it, but it's the survivors. We're out here and we're going back into the trenches. So please open your ears and your eyes to this. This is something that affects you. When something bad happens to one, it happens to all of us. So I'm just asking you guys to open your eyes and let's start advocating. Let's do some things. Let's get a movement going. We need it.
great. Again, Monique, I can't thank you enough for coming on for part 3 and sharing the information that you've shared with us this afternoon. If you want to help Freedom Youth, we know they're legitimate, bona fide, doing tremendous work in our community. Please call her. directly at 929-367-4754. You may not have the time. You may not want to necessarily get your hands in this type of work. However, you may want to help. And if you want to help, just call her 929-367-4754. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to ask Natasha to give us some closing remarks. Natasha, we're really proud of you and thank you for your courage. Thank you for your strength coming on this afternoon. We know it wasn't easy, but we know you're trying to save other young people like yourself. So some remarks, please.
Hi. So, it was a pleasure coming here today to talk with you and everybody else and interacting in this and what you guys are doing and what you guys are doing for people like me means a lot because this is a very important issue that is plaguing our country, our communities, and our lives. So, thank you.
Well, thank you, Natasha. We want to thank everyone for joining All Men Are Not Created Equal podcast. And we want to thank also our partners, NNV, National Network View, for hosting us as well on their platform, and or the production team, Michael Shabazz. Thank you for all the work you've done. And again, join us in another 2 weeks. We're going to have Mr. David Banks on our show, the founder of Eagle Academy, the all boys school network that's doing a great job with our young people, particularly our young Black men. Join us. Actually, it's on the 21st, February 21st, 4 p.m. Again, this is Brother Esquire. I'm signing out. Thank you for another show of All Men Are Not Created Equal platform. Appreciate you. Peace.